Now I'm in the warehouse view of HGSI Investor. I have the stock highlighted that I currently went over in the previous video, and it passes this filter today. Now it's passed this filter multiple times before, or it would have. I actually just have or just received the code for this filter, but I want to point out, I'm going to go back to Gentex and point out when the flags and signals would have occurred with this stock. Now, let's go back to that black chart, just the plain one, and the filter. I'll bring up the filter so you can get an idea of what this does, what the requirements are. The requirements are that the EPA fan trend has to be up. Now this is a new field which was just put in to HGSI at my request, and the filters or the moving averages have to be stacked with the 18 on top, then the 50, then the 100, and then the 200. The volume is minimum requirements only 100,000 shares based upon the 90-day moving average volume. Why 90 days? Because all the VPA flags are calculated upon what's happening with the 90-day average. $1 and above stocks, I put cheap stocks in here too, because sometimes they go on to become big winners. Now if any of these VPA signals or descriptions are met on this day, then the stock will pass this filter. So on today, or over the weekend, I'm doing this over the Martin Luther King holiday weekend, you can see that 265 securities pass this screen, and they're sorted on what we call a combo ranking. If I bring this combo ranking up, this is something that I put together a long time ago. These are the fields in HGSI that are required. I shouldn't say required, they're used, and they're weighted according to how much emphasis I want to give them. So we have something called the force index, which is Dr. Alexander Elder's, so I think one of his better indicators. It is the price times volume, today's price times today's volume. Let me repeat that. It's today's price minus yesterday's price times today's volume, and I weighted that at 14%. A Bongo Weekly is a relative strength indicator which shows long-term strength. This is above the 200-day moving average and approaching the 52-week high. So I call this longer-term demand, and then there are some other fields in here which I'm not going to get into. So looking at this, I'll bring up AMAT, which has been showing up. You can see that the fan is in place, and a VPA flag fired today. In fact, this would be an excellent trade because all the conditions were met at this point here. They were also met here, but it failed. This is why we use stops. If anybody took that trade, the stop would be right below there. You'd be out, and then here is a place for re-entry. But you can see that this stock is in a long-term uptrend. Let's go to a weekly chart on this. Alternate W, and you can see that the trend is clearly up, and the VPA flags work on weekly charts also. I'm going to go back to Gentex Corporation. It's number 15 on here. If you look over here, this side, you'll see that it's an auto parts, and there, look, there's another stock right above it, which is also in the auto parts group. Now I can right mouse click, change to the industry group, and what this does is it isolates all of the auto parts stocks which are showing or meeting their requirements for today. This 0 here is the days since the last VPA signal, and all of these are generating signals today. So it tells me that the group is having a broad participation. Now if I come back here and bring this up once again, we've looked at this many times, and where would the conditions have been met? First of all, the fan has to be in place for the longer term demand. The 18 did not cross until this point right here. So you're not going to catch this off the bottom with this filter, because remember, the fan has to be in place. So the first VPA signal with the fan in place occurred right here, and the buy point would have been just above this because it pulled back, and we use buy stops, and buy stop requires that the stock go through the buy stop for it to be entered. So that would have been a little over $19, and it's currently trading at 21. So you don't catch the bottom with these stocks using this filter. But if a stock is trending, it has a tendency to continue to want to trend. Now, my hope is, and I have no idea if this will happen or not, that this is just the beginning of a major up move. We have a group support, as I just showed you. The stock has been going through a consolidation period. It broke out again. Volume was relatively light on Friday, but that was going into a long holiday weekend. So everything seems to be in place. Let's just take a look at American Axle, the one right above it. And you can see that this stock too is trending. Now, where did the fan form here? It actually didn't form until over here, until this yellow line went above the red line. So it's a little bit late. And why did it take so long? Because of this major sell-off here. So it was rebuilding at this point. If you're playing straight VPA flags, this is what we call a stopping volume. This is a very bullish flag. You don't have to use this fan or this filter, but the reason I like this filter is because I'm looking for continuation. Now, I also look at other stocks that are just exhibiting some of the characteristics, such as volume point of control is turning positive, and we're getting VPA flags. Those who had the courage to buy the stock down here have had a nice run up to the $20 level from about the $13 level. And VPA flags pointed the way all the way up. Now this stock here has a different personality, because it did go down during that sell-off, but it wasn't a sharp break. And right in here is when, well, starting right over here, we're starting to see a little accumulation. It dropped further though. Let's bring the group line in, and you can see that this was heavily influenced by the group. This is why we pay so much attention to the groups in HGSI. And then when the group turned around, this stock turned around and became one of the leaders. As I pointed out in the other video, look what happens when the group stalls here. The stock stalls because they run together. Many years ago, I came up with the term stocks are like wolves, they run in packs, and it's generally true. When we saw the steel groups going up early in the year, as I said, the fundamentals were terrible, but the steels had a great run. Let's see if there are any steel stocks in here. Here's a steel. The raw material suppliers are in here. Here's one that's looking good right now. This is a stock that looks like it wants to go higher. Now you can see up here at the top that earnings and revenues were down. Now they're turning around. You can see there was a decent quarter in September compared to the prior quarter, and the group was going down. Now look what, the group's going up. See the group line, the dotted line? That has a tremendous amount of influence on what happens with the stock, and you're not going to find this in any other program which gives you a visual like this. I want to point out that the EPS rank is terrible, but the group is what's carrying this, and there's an anticipation of a turnaround. Now the next quarter, if you look here, the current quarter estimate, which is to be released on February 23rd, analysts are projecting 180% increase over the same quarter 1 year ago, and that quarter would be the 12-15 quarter, which is minus 20 cents. So this stock is moving up based upon expectations, as most stocks do. Before I end this video, let's take a longer look at it. I'll look at a weekly chart. You can see the group line right here. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. This is back in early 2016 when this group and the steel stocks, these are steel raw material suppliers. They pretty much move in conjunction. Back at this point on 116, let's see, the fundamental information that was out at this time would have been based on the 12-15 quarter, down 300% compared to the same quarter 1 year earlier, minus 20 cents. And yet what happens in anticipation? The group turns around. This is why top-down prospecting is so important. It allows us to see movement in stocks that anybody who is screening from the bottoms up or just looking at earnings growth requirements, they just don't see these stocks. It just doesn't happen. Look at the volume that came in here as accumulation began. Big move up here. This chased it up, and then there was a retrace down here as the group went down, but notice the volume was falling, and then as it starts moving up again, the volume starts building again. Pull back here, volume was fairly steady in here. It wasn't as great as that, and then once again as it starts moving up, you can see the volume spikes. That's it for this video. Once again, I'm just showing you how you can use HGSI and what I look for.